Back from break, everyone. We're going to start this next sessions with Michal Panovich. Michal is a Harvard Business School graduate and has worked at the Boston Consulting Group, where he led projects regarding sales and distribution, technology and innovation, and organizational design for Fortune 500 financial institutions and consumer goods companies. He was also a member of the eBay team at the time of the $2.6 billion acquisition of Skype. And in 2006, he worked at Microsoft, where he was responsible for developing business strategy, including natural user interface strategy or redefining MS strategy versus Apple. He joined BRE Bank in 2011, where he managed new mBank project. Michal is going to share with us what makes mBank the most UX-driven bank in the world, which is wonderful.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for a lovely introduction. Thank you for bearing with me for the second time in this conference. Last year, I had a great pleasure to share some of the, I would say, early insights designs right before new mBank was launched. And of course, there is always a good question why banks actually come here and, or a bank comes here and tries to speak about the design, because banking industry, of course, is famous for its user centricity and great design. And actually, when we take a look at how the industry services its customers today, this is how it does. There is more than 20,000 banks around the world, and pretty much the banking world looks like that. We call it table-based banking, and not much has changed in banking in terms of how it renders its internet or mobile services pretty much within 15 to 20 years. Because if we take a look back, this is today, that's the past. So actually, we can see that in terms of the thinking of how to deliver a financial banking product in a digital life to consumers, the thinking of banks has not changed much. And to be honest, we are not free of this sin. Even up till today, we still have an active service which looks like that. And many of you may be familiar with that. That's what we launched back in 2000, and it has survived in an almost unchanged format for 13 years. The only thing that we did add to the service is on the left, just additional menus and sub-menus for additional products. By the way, most of that, great innovations on the back end and digitizing financial services, which have been in a physical domain for more than several hundred of years. So digitizing these products actually as a standalone for a decade for mBank has been a great continuous flow of innovation. However, in terms of how we delivered front-end and customer experience, right, we were still sticking to the table-based banking. And the reason we came here today, and me personally, is actually to thank you guys as a profession. Because designers have tremendous power and opportunity to change the industry that is so backwards in terms of following up with what the digital life right now is for pretty much any of us as consumers. Meanwhile, just in Poland, there is almost 200,000 people working in industry, serving more than 25 million customers, and we still do what we do. And thanks to the design, we at mBank have been able, and designers, we have been able to dramatically transform of how banking is delivered. And of course, I'm aware that the design choices we made along the way may not fit all the tastes, all the design principles, all the design philosophies. There is plenty to choose from. However, what we try to do is to dramatically update the banking experience and to be more in line with what consumers are experiencing in pretty much every single other aspect of their lives. And not only, cool stuff like entertainment, maybe social networking, but even, such hygienic activities like storing files, sharing files. This is not really not very entertaining. Or even, trip planning. Going for a trip and actually landing in a nice country on a vacation, that's exciting. But actually making plans for that, that's hell. However, there are services like TripIt that actually make even the planning experience, which is hygiene, actually a delightful experience that brings a lot of value to the consumer. So just a very short overview what we have actually done within a very short period of time. So we launched the first wave of new mBank in June last year, and now in January we had another massive rollout of new services. So just very quickly, I will browse through some of those because I would like to spare most of the time on what we have done in mobility, because this is, of course, every one of us knows that this is a game changer. However, I would like to share with you the perspective of a customer, because the front end alone is just a thin layer of what needs to be done in order to create a great design. Because if the front end layer that we design, plan, and render is not actually able to execute along the technology stack and the services stack within the company, regardless of what the product is, then pretty much what we planned for the user to experience will somehow be deficient. So just very quickly, the landing page, so it doesn't look like a typical, table-based bank. Personal finance manager, video chat, a great change, revolutionary change for consumers to actually contact their business provider. Not just in banking, but just overall think about how many telecoms, how many utilities, and how many e-commerce companies can you contact through live authenticated video service where actually you can enter a contract, change a contract, send money, take a loan, and make an investment. That's what we've done for banking, where banking is ingrained very much in the branches. Quick search, very much like Google experience. Sending money P2P, either through Facebook or through a text message. Then very graphical representation of data. What banks have done so far in table-based banking is just to present data to consumers. It's not even information. In order for the consumer to react to the front end, they have to transform all of that in their head. Basically, we make people work. And great design facilitates the intent of the user, so that also in, for instance, this design, something that they used to take several screens and up to 25 clicks. In this screen is delivered to the consumer just with one click and one simple design. Also, reaching out to social platforms, opening up a business model to merchants and merchant-funded offers, ingraining relevance engine plus elements of online advertising within something what used to be a transactional system, not only just to drive and push products, but also to drive engagement and conversation with consumers, because not all the messaging that we put out in online banking right now is sales-driven. Much of that is actually about advice, relationship, and staying in touch with the customer that normally is done face-to-face in the branch, but in a digital channel, you also don't want to be just a pure robot that does not engage and interact with consumers. Gamification elements. So more than 400 screens just in first phase, more than 200 features delivered within 14 months. However, if we take a look at the industry, you will stumble upon the three names, very innovative institutions like Moven, Fidor, Simple. They change the face of banking industry. However, when we think about how much change they drive, they're all great startups, but actually the extent of how many consumers they reached, something like maybe 12,000 for Moven, 60,000 for Fidor, 100,000 for Simple. Great example of entrepreneurship sold, for $118 million to a large Spanish bank. And we at mBank right now are delivering innovation to more than 4 million customers. One of the most important checks whether you deliver a change which is useful to consumers is whether actually they, customer traction, whether they go out and with their clicks vote for your new design. That's the most important thing. And at mBank we did something a little bit crazy because we kept the old system and the old site which can be easily accessible to consumers, and we set out something new. And typically human beings have these I would say, characteristic that only 15% of them actually crave for something new. 85% of consumers, they don't want anything new. They're scared of innovation. They actually would rather stick what they have already known. And that's what is depicted on this picture. Within 7 months since launch, we already had 71% of our customers choosing new mBank as their home bank. That meant more than 50% of logins in a particular period of time. And when we compare that to the distribution of users, of people, and their attitude towards innovation. You know, just mere first 15% is innovators, early adopters. Then there is the early majority, and late majority are people that typically would like to have a market standard, something that is very practical, something that we see all around, which is not the case for mBank because we are the only ones that have such a form of banking. So you can see that with 71%, we are already penetrating late majority, and there is a ceiling. 14% of people never switch. They never go for new. Actually, they have to be forced, otherwise they will never go for the new design. So we are very near, actually, maximum saturation point to which any innovation facing a standard customer distribution can have. So that was, I would say, internal, Polish validation. We also got a lot of accolades from around the world. Actually, last week in New York, I have accepted, on behalf of the team, the 6th win in global innovation contests for banking. One specific is for us very, I would say, very valuable. The FMAS Association, we beat 330 submitted projects from 156 global banks, and we were named the most disruptive innovation in banking for the last year. It didn't stop us. The new release, we addressed new customer scenarios and new products or service areas, like very cool investment platform, the summary of your overall balance sheet, loans area, or insurance. So pretty much right now, almost entirety of our product base, and this is something that needs to be taken account for the designer. It's very different when you design something for 3 products or 3 services. When you have 1,200, 1,200 products in a lineup, that's what we have. Many of them, of course, variants, but this is at least 100 different products of very heterogeneous nature, delivered to very heterogeneous customer base, in order to make a design that can encompass all that complexity, so that actually most of the scenarios can very seamlessly be done by the user. This is a great challenge. Optimization for something simple is a different challenge. Optimization for breadth and depth is something different as well. On top of that, we also delivered new mBank internationally to our customers in Czech Republic and Slovakia. So new mBank platform right now is pretty much international. However, something what we would like to, I don't know how much time I still have. I don't see the clock. Okay, so I still have 12 minutes. Actually, I would like to jump into mobility. And of course, this is very basic information for everybody right now. Mobility is important, mobility is huge, and definitely the future. However, in order to get to mobile scenarios, you need to go through the roadmap of adapting your scenarios that were either in your offline service or in the online browser-based. Translating them into mobile is not just copy-pasting solutions and then cramming all the features into a mobile scenario. Actually, that's what we did several years ago with our first mobile application. This was pretty much a reflection of a transactional system from the web, which was good for maybe for the first step, but actually it's a pretty bad design. And a testament to that, before I jump into, I would say, the customer end reflections and conclusions from this mobility adventure we took upon, is, I think, very nicely encapsulated on this chart. We spent tremendous amount of iteration, benchmarking, designing, and testing on what to do with our new mobile banking application, which again doesn't look very much like what our competitors would do in Poland and other places in the world, because we believed that it's not about thinking bank first and then putting that on mobile. Actually, we tried to think what mobility is, and then making a sometimes very hard work on the back end of banking and all the processes, procedures, IT, whatnot, so that these guys fit into mobile scenario, not mobile fits into what we already had in the organization. I will give a couple of examples. And that's, I think, is demonstrating this point very, very well. So in January, we still had our old applications, and a point needs to be made that right now we are by far the biggest mobile bank in Poland. We have more than 700,000 customers logging at least once monthly from a portable device, half of that through applications. The second to us is PKO BP, which is way larger where we are, with half of what we have in terms of user base. Many other competitors of similar scale have like a quarter or 1/5 of mobile user base. So we are already starting for a pretty much high level of adoption. And that's depicted on this picture. This is this yellow line. 10% of all the logins into our digital services were coming from mobile applications. Within 6 weeks, since launching new application, we doubled the amount of logins that are coming in from mobility. And the share of mobile for all digital platforms has jumped from 9.5% to 18%. If we add up all other channels for mobility, we are in 1/4 a mobile bank already. And you can see this dramatic increase. The number of logins per month in old application was roughly 9 per month. With the new application, it's 32. And it's not that we can ever force users to log in 33 times a month. They do that because we believe, and that's also something that we get as a feedback from our customers, we, I think, rendered some elements of mobility which are very much aligned with mobile scenarios, and some of these learnings I would like to share with you. So, in terms of, there is a lot of things that can be said about mobile, and there's not enough time to touch upon, most of them. However, I wanted to highlight 2 items in mobility that were huge for us. One is convenience and speed of use and speed of access to scenarios. The other, which I will touch upon later, is about the business model change that actually needs to happen so that you can be successful on mobile. So the first thing is convenience, instant gratification. Simple login. And there is one point to be made. Whenever you touch a mobile application for most banks, you have this password and login, and they have to go through and through with that. Of course, it's not very creative, it's not very fast, it's not very convenient. So you can always complain, hey, you have so many popular services like Spotify, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you touch on your mobile device has a very fast access, the sessions that are not closed, the access to information and scenarios which don't require a PIN. Something, you can log in, somebody can take your phone, get your Facebook application, and start posting messages. And maybe, of course, this is not a scenario which is very dangerous for people, but still, many of those providers, they eliminate barriers, and that's very logical. They eliminate barrier to actually go into a scenario and start experiencing the service. However, this is a big no-no in banking. If you ever did that in banking, pretty much as a banker, you go to jail. Because what happens in banking is, and we all know it and feel it, it's about money security, customer identity, confidentiality, bank secrecy, theft. These have been elements that we as institutions of public trust have delivered to, maybe it will sound grandiose, but to society, for hundreds of years. And this is something that not only needs to be preserved for the health of the institution or industry, but also is safeguarded by legal standards and legal obligations. So that's why banking industry has been so slow or under-delivering on even, these it could seem like a very minute item. But when you think about the elements, how to deliver fast login so that it's secure, bank approved, it doesn't get police chasing after your customers. It's something very, very different. And that's something that we achieved. With the typical access through password and login, a typical user would, they would need 30 to 60 seconds to log in. For some studies, some studies say that it's even 2 minutes for an average user because there is a lot of repetition or mistakes whenever you have a strong password which is required and whatever the username which might be complex. 30 to 60 seconds. But when you think about these mobile scenarios, they need to pass the red lights scenario. Red lights means you pull out the phone, you stopped at the red lights, you log in, you actually can go, do your thing, and then you can start safely going on the street. So pretty much 30 to 60 seconds for the convenience-driven scenarios. And that's what we did. We cut the login time from 30 to 60 seconds to 5 seconds, which means that within just an example, within the next 5 seconds, you can check your balance. This is something that 99% of users do when they log in, and then 70% of people also do a transaction, a transfer. So then we design a scenario for 30 seconds. So in our old solution, you wouldn't actually gone through the login page. That means that a lot of scenarios during the day, when you want to take out, you check Facebook, you check Twitter, you check your email, you also deliver the service in banking that actually can be done in pretty much the same routine. However, cutting that to 5 seconds meant I don't know how many meetings with security, with testing, with even the supervisory authority to approve a new way of doing that. However, the new login is not enough because we wanted to, because even this 5-second barrier, we felt like we need to force ourselves into thinking of what we could still deliver without violating these security, identity, theft, and whatnot, however, still make an application useful just after a single tap. And maybe I will try to show that. Okay, I'm kneeling in front of you, and this is the first time that nails have been used to put my iPhone on the desk, because when I move, we might be actually losing the screen. So this is the pre-login page, to our mobile application. And actually, we have found a way to show the balance of your account without actually disclosing that information. Because these percentages, this is asymmetrical information. In the backend, I have defined the balance that I know because I have it in my head, nobody else knows it. So actually, I know that 81% is something like, I don't know, 4,000 zloty. I know it. But somebody that doesn't have a PIN, an authorization, they don't. So without logging in, I know my balance already. The other thing which is behind, in front is, of course, geolocation services and things like an ATM, a branch, but also you can see the percentages. So this is these merchant-funded deals. We also display to customers that they are very near, just a couple of steps, and I can get my sweet discount from a merchant. We are also showing a credit card, how much balance I have outstanding. So again, within percentages, nobody knows if they attempted to steal my credit card, whether it's 100,000 zloty, credit line on that, or maybe just 2. I know it, and it is useful for me. It's not very useful for somebody who is not authorized to see that information. But what we did is, and this is also personalized, we are turning this page into a communication vehicle or sales vehicle for easy access for consumers to products and notifications. So in this case, I can see that there is a loan which I can use on the go, and also something which is good for the consumer, 10%, 10 zloty or 7% of discount, and very quickly. Let's see whether, okay, the connection is slow. I can check out the detail on that particular transaction. I can walk or drive to the store, and just with one tap, I already added that to my account. And again, I don't have to be logged in to deliver that scenario, because we try to select those ones which are either safe for the users from their authentication perspective, or we use this asymmetry of information to deliver something which is normally delivered only upon identification in the banking industry. So this is, if we could flip to the presentation. So that's a very seemingly simple example for a service that doesn't have this authentication hurdle like banking. But whenever you touch a limitation like that, then it is all about the backend work. Because if you looked up all those best practices from other types of services, of course it's a no-brainer. However, the designer then has to go and work with a lot of people in a complex place to make the scenario, to bring the scenario to realization. Otherwise, the bankers would say, no. Okay, we'll stick to the way we already have because it's difficult to change. So that's this, iceberg, iceberg metaphor. What we see is just a sliver but what needs to be done on the back end throughout many different professions within the organization to deliver. And that's also one of the limitations, to put it into perspective, why banks look like they look. Because changing that actually is a complex endeavor. Now, okay, so this was just in case the phone didn't work. Now, I would like to stress an even more important point, that mobility is about changing the business model. And what I mean by that. Banks right now, you can see in the TV, you know, they all started to advertise to consumers, you know, mobile banking. But I fear that many of them have not yet realized that they're cutting a branch on which they're sitting. Because this form factor of 3.5 inches brings about a design metaphor which is so unfit to a typical way banking product is being bought or sold. Most banks have not still learned how to sell online, just to start with. That's why the online systems are not called e-commerce systems or engagement systems or services, but just transactional services, just for transactions. However, 3.5 inches is even more difficult to deliver an abstract service, which financial service is, and just close your eyes how much legalese you have to go through, how many simulations you typically have to go, how many options there are. They are not fit. If only translated directly, they are absolutely not fit for mobility. So then, it's an even more compelling case to go to the back end, to go to the product people, to actually drive a lot of change on the back of the organization so that the front end can really shine. And I would like to share a few experiences that we had here. And that's a very compelling example why mobility is so difficult to grasp and that it requires change, up until Facebook showed that it can sell advertising online, through mobile. Its stock price was tanking since the IPO. They're publishing great numbers on mobile adoption, not actually much revenue. Wall Street was killing them. The same thing was happening for Google for a while. They were so scared about losing search revenue that was coming from browsers. That was actually the #1 consideration for launching Android. That was a defensive move, so that the cash cow, 97% of revenues of the company, would not evaporate with users migrating to mobility. And then, of course, a lot of experimentation, thousands of people working, how to sell advertising through their platform. Once they've shown that they can do that, again, Google has crossed $1,000 gap, peg, first time in the history in the recent months or years, only after they've shown that that they are fit for mobility in terms of business model. For banks, I would say it's even more difficult. The reason is, and I will show you an example, a very compelling example. Actually, since inception of banking, it's about one thing. When you think about the essence of what we do. Take deposits from honest, hardworking people, like this family, on top of this circle, and then taking these deposits and selecting some other, hopefully, honest families of people to which you can actually pass on that money so that they can make a better use on that, and then they repay that in interest because you take this interest and you pay back to the people who are saving. So this transformation of mostly short-term financial surplus into long-term credit, that's the essence of banking, and that's actually how it helps the economy moving and helps foster growth. But there is this one thing which is at the heart of that. How to assess the creditworthiness of the people you lend the money to. It's not our money, it's not banks' money, it's our depositors' money. So actually, this intricate process of assessing individuals' creditworthiness and their probability of returning that loan, it's a very difficult process. It requires a lot of information. That's why, if we take a look at how loans are delivered these days, this is what you have on the left. The best banks in Poland, what they say, we can give you a decision on the loan within a couple of hours, maybe 15 minutes sometimes. However, you have to come to the branch with a stack of documentation that verifies the information that we need to verify your creditworthiness. So this is not and fancy of the bank. This is really about protecting the people who deposit money. And what it does is it takes at least a few hours and a total cost of ownership on part of the user, because they have to collect the documents, go to the branch, discuss, and do the wet signature, a very cumbersome, costly process for any consumer. There are some innovative parabanks, I would call that. Call them maybe, a few of them. They say, look, it will be very convenient, only 900 seconds, 15 minutes, fully online. You don't need to deliver any documentation, and you will get a loan. Perfect convenience factor, right? From the user experience, great. Instead of going to a branch, collecting documentation, a few clicks, 15 minutes, cash in my account. Great UX. But it comes at a price. It comes at a tremendous price, 3,000 percentage points a year. So that's, to some extent, cutting the risk assessment process and the alchemy that banks have mastered for hundreds of years of doing that is costing the consumer 3,000%. But what we said, hey, this makes absolutely no sense. We want no branch, no wet signature. We want it fully online. And if we were to do it on mobile, it has to pass the red light scenario, 30 seconds or nothing. And by the way, it absolutely has to cost the market rate of a cash loan. So you can see this dramatic, the dramatic specification that we put. And in order to do it in 30 seconds, you have to move everything within a bank. There's 400 people working in credit assessment just for retail business, 400 at mBank. And there is also externalities like supervisors. So when we first brought the idea to the credit risk officer, of the chief credit risk officer of the bank, and there are people, of course, that was their reaction. Guys, what are you smoking? As if 15 minutes that we already give you was not enough. You are fastest in the industry, and you want to cut from 15 minutes to 30 seconds. And we said, hell yeah. And actually, they scratched their head. It didn't take them long. And after a few months of work on the second phase, and this will be I know that I'm over time, I will try to show you. Hopefully it works. And again, this is not about getting more risk into the company. This is the same level of security and respecting the money of our depositing customers. However, we forced ourselves on the back end to change to an extent that the process takes 30 seconds without compromising security of the money that we took from in deposits. So mobility, look at that, just one screen. No up and down. I already have, a suggestion, the upper limit, so pre-approved limit on my application. Let's say I take 600 zloty. Recalculation. This is the number of months that I would like to take the loan on. It quickly calculates. I click accept. So that's the installment. The 40 zloty is an installment for 18 months. Hopefully all the connections work today. Actually, at the launching press conference, it didn't. Let's see. This should be 30 seconds. And right now, what happens on the back end is, a journey, actually a journey through systems, anti-fraud, big transactional behavior, person's income, identity. All of that has been routed within 20 seconds to give a decision. And actually, a decision is yes. Okay, done. I just got a 600 zloty loan. And let's see, here we go. This transaction, 642 zloty, is a money in my account, and I can actually take out my debit card and buy a car. And this is not for small amounts, like these credit services for 3,000 percentage points, where they give you small amounts for 5 days. This is up to 50,000 zloty for as long as, what was that, 5 years? So this is pretty much a very, very standard and standard cash loan with no security on that. Plus, it's delivered in 30 seconds at the normal price. So just to wrap up, maybe just one slide, if you bear with me. I will skip over, one other scenario. That's the clue from our experience and the learning that we've had. That basically all the technology is peanuts. It's actually it's not even worth talking about. That's so easy. Design is compelling, and it required a lot of change because, transforming tables into something that looks a little bit like digital life, that was the big change, to take and respect designers and invite them to the table so that they're in a triangle and have an equal say in the decision-making process. But actually the point is that this triangle of business, engineers, and designers is very well balanced, and then all of these people have influence and decision-making into the production process. Otherwise, you either get something which works nice, but users don't understand it, or is only meant to make money, or is just so over-designed that basically engineers cannot deliver that on time, or basically what is on the back end is not catching up with what we meant on the front end. So thank you very much for your profession and helping us. Thanks.